Well, hello there. Welcome to Women Around a Table Eating Food. We're Nick and Jen, therapist and writer, partners in crime, and lifelong best friends. Around here, WTF means what the food. And it's our excuse to go deep, get real, and share the kind of messy conversations that usually stay between us and a plate of something delicious. So sit back, grab a bite, and join our conversation. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey girl, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, hanging
You
in.
know,
Would you ask
hanging
me
in there.
last week I was having a bad week and you said today just needs to be 1% better than yesterday.
Yeah,
And
right?
so you said you hanging on by a thread or a rope or something else. And
Yeah,
I don't I yeah. So yeah, hanging in.
a
Hanging
spider
in.
web.
Spiderweb.
So today, I'm super excited because, we're talking about a topic that is not necessarily
Right.
super exciting. We're going to be talking about divorce and not just as the legal event, but as this life transition that impacts everything from identity to family to your emotional world. And who we have to kind of guide us through that conversation is one of my absolute favorite humans on the planet,
Mm.
Carrie
Me.
Rosenbloom.
Yay,
I,
Carrie.
for so many reasons, and we'll get into the personal reasons as we go through this conversation, but I do want to just kind of introduce Carrie um, officially in our bio sort of way. So Carrie brings a rare and powerful dual perspective to the conversation around divorce. She blends well over decades of experience as both an attorney and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And she understands what many systems miss about this. While divorce is a legal process, it is equally, if not more, an emotional one. She combines a lawyer's clarity with a therapist's compassion, helping individuals and families navigate divorce with intention, control, and care. Her approach goes beyond paperwork and courtrooms. She works with clients from the moment they begin considering divorce through the rebuilding of their lives on the other side. By taking the time to understand each of her clients' history, family dynamics, and vision for the future, Carrie helps guide thoughtful, grounded decision making during one of life's most complex transitions.
Mm.
As the founder of Divorce Beyond Court, she has helped many families move through divorce with greater clarity and less chaos. And she also has shared her experience as an adjunct professor at Fairfield U. With degrees from the University of Michigan, Georgetown University Law Center, and Fairfield U, Carrie offers a uniquely integrated approach, both supporting the legal and emotional aspects of divorce at the same time. I can say with Carrie in your corner, divorce becomes not just something you get through, but an opportunity to thoughtfully reshape your life, your relationships, and your future. So,
Mm.
welcome.
Well,
Mm.
thank you. Thank you. My adrenaline is surging just at the thrill of being with you two wonderful women, and I appreciate that
Mm.
introduction. So let
I
me
Yeah.
see
got
if I can live
goosebumps,
up to
Nick. That
it.
was beautiful.
Well,
That was
and
beautiful.
I have to Carrie literally, like I said, one of my favorite humans on the planet. She is also a human that makes me laugh more than anybody on the
Oh
planet.
man.
Like that I can say like I don't think I have laughed as hard with anybody else than Carrie. And Carrie has been so meaningful in my life. I'm just going to tell our origin story first, Care.
Mm.
Carrie was a student of mine first, and it's times in a
Always.
professor's life when
Mm.
you meet a student and you're like, fuck, man, I want to be her friend. And so I figured out how we could do that. So she just had to
You
get
made
through
it
grad
happen.
school. Yeah, get
Yeah.
through grad school. We were business partners for a little while, friends for much longer. And Carrie literally ushered me through my own divorce in so many ways and literally put a roof over my head. Like I lived with
Mhm.
Carrie and her family during that time, and I don't think I would have made it through my divorce without her. So
Mm.
that's our
That's
origin
so
story.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you would have, but I'm very grateful that I was invited in to help because sometimes you need an outside lens looking in because the inside's really, really messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the
Totally.
things that Nick had written in the, we try to we try to prepare our thoughts because we never want to have a script and we never want anything to sound like it's scripted, but we try to frame our thoughts. And one of the things that she wrote that I loved was, the fact that divorce is, I'm going to read it just because I'm looking at it. Why divorce is one of the few life events where people are expected to make major legal decisions while being emotionally dysregulated.
Mhm.
And it's like, and that hit me. That almost brought me to tears, having been divorced myself as well. I would have loved to have met you to be able
Mhm.
to go through that process with you. Luckily, like so many people in Nick's life, she introduced me to you as well. And I have experienced all that you are, your brains, and how you parent and how you interact with people and your incredible humor. And that is definitely one of the things that I would love for us to talk about, how you were able to take your passioning, your ability for law and marry it with your equal passion for people's emotions and sensitivities. And it's like you created a magic profession putting these things together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was relatively organic. As Nick can attest to, I would consider myself probably the least most deliberate person, right? Things come to me and I don't question it. And then I'm thoughtful moving forward. But
Mm,
things come to me. And so this was not a plan. I got my therapy, my LMFT, my MFT in order to supplement my mediation practice because it became clear to me so early on that this is not legal and that there needs to be
yeah.
somebody who's equipped at understanding, particularly when you're thinking about parenting time and child related issues, somebody who is much, much more process oriented than the court. Courts are reactive and results oriented. The problem happens and then they figure out what to do about it, or there's something that needs to be done and they want to get you to solution. Divorce is absolutely a process. You
Mm,
can't get to the results unless you take your time really thoughtfully to consider every single solitary piece in the puzzle and create a process that supports all of those things so that divorce can be enduring. And so I kind of got, I married the therapy and the mediation just to be a better mediator. Love the therapy piece. And so then when I moved where I am now, my practice, my brick and mortar practice
Mm.
is in Ann Arbor, but my practice is really virtual and, this country, Canada. Um, I sort of stuck with the therapy piece, and then I collaborate with a lot of lawyers through
mm,
through managing cases. Sometimes they'll send me a family for therapy,
Mm.
and we'll work together. And sometimes it's just education. I do workshops, I do lunch and learns, and then it sort of evolved into Divorce Beyond Court, which is a total coaching platform that keeps me from constantly violating the boundaries of each of my licenses in order to merge the two, right? Like Divorce Beyond Court is really just keeping me out of court. Um, and
Nice.
it allows me to be like full service and say, okay, here's what's expected of you legally.
Mm.
Let's figure out how you're going to be able to meet those markers, those critical, essential markers, in a way that supports your growth and development. Um, with the concept that divorce is the end of nothing, it is absolutely a restructuring of your family. So, how do we
mm.
restructure and create new roles and rules and boundaries and responsibilities that support the mental health, the physical health, and the success of every member of the family?
Mm. Well, okay, we're done now. Thank
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
you.
even know what the question was. I
Peace
hope I
out.
answered
It's our
it.
it's our fastest episode yet.
That
Done. Now just go and find Carrie and then that's it.
no, that is just so beautifully articulated. And you can see how it marries both sides of your brain, right? It marries that really kind of directive, pragmatic, legal side, but also the nuance of looking at systems and patterns and
Mhm.
relationships and the emotion that comes out in those relationships, you know? So like just such a beautiful art. It makes me think a little bit too, Carrie, of like, I'm sure like part of what you have to handle is the emotional tone, the emotional tenor of multiple people navigating the divorce, right?
Mhm.
And so like how do you help them when they're fucking angry, they're hurt, they're vitriolic, they're like, how do you actually start to work with that so you can move them through this process with a little bit more ease? I'm not going to say it's easy, but a little bit more ease.
And that's really difficult. So I can break it down into sort of three domains, right? I'm either working with an individual to say, like, let's get you ready for this, right? Preparation, thoughtfulness. A lot of times it's helping you communicate better with your lawyer. How do you sort of let them know the information that you think is important to make these major decisions? How do you ground yourself? And then how do you live your day-to-day life so that I always ask people, like, how much of your brain capacity is this particular situation taking up? And it's often like 80, 90%. So
Wow.
little by little, I try to
Wow.
reclaim rituals and structure and control and power where it's available to reduce that to a compartment that only needs to be accessed when it's required. So that's kind of the individual work is, let's look at this. Let's look at where it came from. What I can't do and what people often want is sort of that vindication. I
Mm,
want this person to take responsibility for how they messed up my life, how horrible they were, how much I actually sacrificed to be with them this long. That's such a huge emotional piece, and you never get it, right? So part of that is helping people understand what's available in their own domain and letting go of what's not available. We
mm,
can't make other people perform. So the individual work is really just identity, self-reclamation, and planning for the future. Sometimes it's when you're not able to see the future, you get stuck
mm,
because you don't know which direction to turn. So I really, really help people do that, both in navigating the process of divorce and then being able to navigate it toward a meaningful conclusion.
mm,
The bulk of my practice, which I think is so important, is co-parenting.
mm,
So that more answers your question.
mhm,
What do you do when a family unit has, whether it's functional or dysfunctional? It's never everybody's good at everything,
mhm.
right? You have
Yeah.
one parent who's usually responsible for X, Y, and Z, another parent who's responsible for A, B, and C, and the kids are like, okay, we've got A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Everything's working. I don't really know how. And then there's a split, and now the kids get A, B, C half the time, X, Y, Z half the time. How do the parents work together to sort of meet the totality of the children's needs?
Mm,
And oftentimes the last thing they want to do is work together.
mm,
The
Right.
values are not in
mm,
alignment. One parent who has been otherwise excluded from part of the family functioning, whether it's because they haven't been available or chosen not to be, is trying to work their way into what the other parent thinks of as their domain. So in that situation, how do I get everyone to work together? Is I focus heavy-handedly, um, manipulatively, any way that I can on the children's needs,
mm.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
very direct and very clear about what will help your children, uh, you know, continue to move toward adulthood and what's going to stop them. And so I'm very, very demanding. I have a parent who turned to me at one point and said, sometimes, Carrie, I want this whole thing to end so we can go out and have a beer together. And other times, I just never want to see you again.
That's so great.
And that's
Mm,
that's the way it is trying to get people to do things that don't feel right, but
mm.
are.
That's when you know
Oh,
you're doing your job when you get a comment like that, right?
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And frankly, as a parent or as a caregiver, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing when you hear that feedback or you elicit that feedback from your kids.
Mhm.
Sometimes they love you and sometimes like get away from me or
Yeah.
it like and it's a you know Parker used to say a long time ago, if you have to be willing to make your child cry sometimes. Like you have to do the hard things. You have to say the hard things. You have to push the boundaries and how painful that is as a parent. And also knowing that we're never ever going to always say the thing that somebody else wants to hear. And that's hard.
It is hard. And I think for kids, a lot of what happens is that ability to push back and that ability to go through all of the adolescent milestones and hurdles that they need to jump to reach their independence are interrupted because now they have to step back and protect the fragility of the parental environment, right? I can't,
Right.
if I tell mom that dad did this, then there's going to be a huge battle. And if I don't, then I got to deal with this behavior. And if I fight and scream at mom and sibling tells dad that we just had a huge fight, then, dad's going to be all activated into what's going on at that house. And so kids often either are directed into absolute compliance, which is not what a teenager needs to be, or rebellion, which on some level is functional for a teenager, but not rebellion against the parental functioning, has to be rebellion against the parent. And
Right.
so a lot of times I try to protect kids, little kids, from being too responsible for their parents' emotional well-being, and
Yeah.
older kids from not exercising their voice and their rights and their advocacy and their developmental need to go out in the world and like mess things up and learn the consequences from peers and society and teachers and all of those things at the expense of their parents' ability to handle it. So there are a lot of moving pieces that need to be tended to, but I will always protect the developmental needs of the kids because we don't want two generations of dysfunction, right? We
Yeah.
got to stop it somewhere.
Yeah. So are you seeing full families too as a part of this divorce beyond court? Like, do you see different subsystems but beyond just the parents?
Yeah, I will. I mean, it's funny because I just got an email with somebody requesting a full family session. It's mom, divorced dad, and teenage kids. And I have to really be thoughtful about what dynamic is going to be supported or what pattern can be broken in session. And so I will, but like with this particular family, just read the email before I started this conversation. I'm thinking, nope, we have to have the parents have a conversation first before we bring the kids in. So we're not just doing an hour of a power struggle. Then I'll bring the kids in. I don't necessarily, I don't want to bring the kids in for triangulation or for, to further disrupt the parental functioning. But I will meet with kids of a certain age to say to them, what are your parents missing? What do they need to know? Right. I have said this so many times that I feel like when I say it, I'm like, uh-oh, have they already heard this before? Marriage is hard. No one really knows how to be married. You look around and you see other people doing it, but we don't really know what's happening in anyone's marriage. People know less about divorce. And so I will be very clear with kids that when your parents got married, just like when they had you guys, they're figuring it out as they go along. Divorce is even that much more elusive. So I enlist their help to say, what is it that your parents need to know? What's working, what's not working? And then I ask that same question of what percent of your parents' divorce is really like occupying passively or actively your brain space? And how much do you feel like your parents' divorce is interrupting your ability to be a child? And then I define childhood for them as worrying about your own stuff, being carefree, playing with friends, getting your homework done, figuring out like when you're going to clean your room so no one yells at you again, right? And I get a percentage for each of those things. And it's usually really, unfortunately, high. And then I use those conversations to influence parents to function better. So usually I don't want to put the kids in the room with the parent. I want the kids' information to be informative.
Makes total sense.
And kids need to be heard. They need to be heard during this time. And the risk is I have to really clarify for them that I have no authority, because oftentimes when I'm working with families, they've already had a guardian ad litem who is, somebody who's assigned to a family to understand the interests of the children and advocate for them, or they've already had their own therapists, or they've met with court appointed people for a parenting time evaluation, and they've really lost a lot of trust in the system and in their ability to be heard. So I don't want to be another person who prevents them from ever seeking therapy or seeking guidance in the future. So I'm really clear about my limits, but I do want to give them voice.
And that I think is unique. I don't think like that really, that perspective and that approach to it, I don't hear it articulated that way in a lot of venues. And so because it's not that, because some people would look at that, okay, you're aligning with the kid, right? You're not aligning with the kid. You're gathering information from this young person so that you can help create a different structure for their continued development.
Right. And I'm not aligning so much as I'm advocating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that means that kids have to be responsible for what's expected of them, and parents have to be responsible for what's expected of them. But in divorce, children, this isn't their choice. And I recognize that by the time a couple gets divorced, it's probably the best decision for them.
Mm.
And so do it, right? Thank goodness that option exists for many people. But the kids aren't part of the buildup and the trajectory. And typically there are two responses. One is, thank God, finally
Yeah.
get them away from each other. And the other is, we did not see this coming. It seems fine. And I'm not going to say to
Mm.
them, well, they haven't had sex in 7 years, and, they're not sleeping in the same room. And, one of them's been on Facebook a little too much, but, they don't get it, and they haven't been consulted, and they're never consulted because they don't really have a voice until they're 18. And so, yeah, I feel like it's not, to your point, Nick, it's not aligning, it's restructuring with
Mm.
all people who are part of the structure accounted for.
Mm.
Yeah. Carrie, can you pinpoint some mistakes that you feel that families make early in the process that you wish that they didn't, or if you had advice that you could give them to try to head something off at the pass, what do you see happen and what do you wish you could change?
It's a great question, because I think that's why I sort of created the Divorce Beyond Court platform, is that I think that the mistake people make is thinking that the legal process is going to solve all the problems. Particularly, I don't do a lot of financial stuff,
Mm.
particularly with parenting time, right? By the time I'm working with people, I mean, I'll work with anybody at any stage of divorce. Even a wonderful, kind divorce still requires sort of a trajectory, through and after. But typically people come to me because the divorce is complicated,
Yeah.
right? There's mental health involved, there's substance use involved, there's a pattern of abuse involved, and lawyers are not equipped, or is there a forum for them to sort of manage the nuance? And so I think that the mistake people make oftentimes is thinking that the legal process is broader than it is. It's a very narrow lane of evidence. And what is evidence? And evidence is a
Mm.
legal term. And so I think for people to have their resources and their support in line, and to have somebody to bounce things off of, a guide, a coach, a friend, anybody, to be able to say, how do I check the legal boxes that are absolutely required in a way that supports not divorce fatigue, not burnout, not the desire to just get this behind me, but the ability to make an enduring plan and decision that I won't regret later. And so I think that's, the piece I see oftentimes is I'm kind of picking up where the legal process has left off
Mm.
a little too late,
Mm.
Mm.
because people
Mm.
don't really know. You don't know. I mean, can talk all day about mediation, collaboration, litigation, the types of divorce, but I don't think people realize the limits of the legal process of divorce until you're in there and saying, but my child hates the other parent. Well, why?
Right,
Have
right.
they been abused? Well, I don't. It's just he doesn't listen. She doesn't pay attention, and
Mhm.
that's not something that a court can sink its teeth into.
Mhm.
There are paradigms, right? The divorce paradigm is shifting more toward the presumption of 50-50 parenting time, which
Mhm.
for the vast majority of the families is wonderful, right?
Mm.
But for
Except
that,
when it's not.
except when it's
Right?
not,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
20% of families that are dealing with really difficult issues, that's not a starting point.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In parental estrangement, there's a sense that reunification is the best outcome.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not.
Right.
Not every relationship is meant to be, and not every
Right.
relationship can be quantifiable. And so,
Mhm.
I also feel like part of what I do is constantly educating lawyers and judges and guardian ad litem and parenting coordinator about what's actually happening in the emotional world, and
Mm.
why reunification therapy with a 14-year-old who hates her parent is not
Mm.
the right answer. There's a different
Right.
answer. So I
And do you
think people
find that
just,
they're listening to you? Do you find lawyers and judges and guardian ad litems are taking that in and like receiving it?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, not because I'm saying it, but because it's a missing link in their knowledge base. And so
Mm.
so with that in mind, is they're really, really listening. So I have to be really careful and thoughtful about what I say, because if you're a lawyer coming to me and saying, I've got this family and this parent hasn't seen their kid in 8 months and she won't go, and I say, here's what I'm recommending, that's all they've got. So it's
Mm.
got to be thoughtful, because they really are listening. And a lot of what I'm trying to do is create, um, cross professional workshops and lunches and things that bring therapists together with lawyers to be able to communicate about all these things and collectively understand the dynamics that are at stake. And it's been amazing. Lawyers are so eager. Family law is hard.
Mm.
Carrie, I can't even imagine how busy you must be. I
A
mean,
little
see, like
overwhelming.
like before we got on, we were just talking about the trials and tribulations of being adult children of with aging parents and also taking care of kids and all of that. But like I'm just listening to, I'm thinking about the like hundreds of thousands of families who could benefit from what you are trying to do because I mean, people get divorced all the time, and you don't hear many stories about the good divorces. It's always about the conflict. And where do you see you're spending your time right now, or is there ever do you see a slowdown in a need for your services, or like literally do you need to clone yourself
Yeah.
15 times over? Yeah,
On a personal level, one of the biggest struggles I have is that there aren't that many people that do what I do.
I bet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. There aren't that many lawyers who are like, oh, now maybe I'll be a therapist. Right. Like
Yeah.
it's not, most people are better at picking lanes than I am. So on that level, it's difficult. So I was this morning, I spent an hour and a half with a collaborative group in Chicago that are divorce professionals, and it's a lifesaver. Right? It's like my sacred time.
Mm.
But I oftentimes feel like I'm expanding and expanding and seeing more and more and more people. And
Yeah.
I'm a little like making it up as I go along, not from nowhere, but there no two families are the same.
Mm,
The models that are so helpful, like what Nick and I know best, like looking at systems and structures, really apply to this. Um, but the methodology of restructuring it's got to be a little bit creative. And so I'm constantly wanting to bounce
mhm,
things off of people and say, what would you do? What would you do? Just to check myself.
Mm.
That's the hard part. Um, and I also have like a really hard time saying no. And
mm,
so like, if people come to me, I want to help. I want to help. I mean, this whole sort of practice is motivated by my sister who just had a terrible divorce. And
Mm.
there was so much that could have been done to help her children not have to suffer the lifelong effects
Mm.
of
mm,
that divorce. And so with that
mm,
motivation, my beloved nieces and nephews who are at various stages of thriving as a result of it constantly motivate me to say, if I could just help one more family, I'll just do one more family,
mm.
just one more. I could do this. I'll do it. One more. Okay. Saturday morning, I'm free. All right. I can work late
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah.
But I still love it. And I still benefit from it, even though, I'm at risk every day of like somebody, I get more hate mail as a therapist
I
than
was gonna say, like, how do you just, because I'm just also thinking, and we joke about, you and I were going back and forth about midlife, Carrie, on our text, and just like also how, like midlife for us as women, the amount of energy we have for things ebbs and flows and does like, and you've got your foot on the gas pedal like most of the time.
yeah,
How, where does that energy come from?
I don't know. I don't know.
Drugs?
Are there? Can I? Um, I don't know. I mean, self-regulation is not one of my strong suits. I'm getting much better at balance. And so one of the things I've done is I've consolidated my practice into 3, sometimes 4 incredibly intense days and then downtime. I love to write. So I've got a book about all of this in the works, and that's what helps me put it together and make meaning of it. As we talked about earlier, I have aging and sick parents. And so put energy on them. And then I have adult kids, and I will tell you one thing, that this is off topic entirely,
Mm.
but the benefit of the investment as when you're raising your kids is the beauty of having relationships with adult children.
Mm.
So like that to me, I'm always working toward the time I can leave and go see them, leave and visit them, meet them. I mean, just it's you pay, and that's part of my motivation for a lot of these families too, is to say, get through this, because there's so much time ahead of you to parent than there is behind you. 18 to whenever is much, much longer, to 0 to 18. And the benefit of having these amazing relationships with adult children is worth all the initial hard work. So I think that's a lot of what motivates me.
And you
Is
have some of the most epic, wonderful children, like truly. And I don't say that, you know, because I'm not like, I don't love children, right? I don't have any.
I think I may be responsible for that in the early years.
No, you are the one, like your kids are so delightful to be around, and they always have been. I haven't seen them in years, but when I lived with you, I looked forward to chilling with Eli. Like
Yeah.
I looked forward to when you guys would come over to our house, and like he'd accompany you, and we'd hang out with my former wife, and we would be like Eli was one of the girls, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we laugh about that time often when, you know, whatever we were going through, but we will laugh about the time when Eli, who was what, like, I don't know, 10, 12,
Yeah.
Eli and I and you, Nick, and your former wife were best friends.
It was. We were. It's like we're going over their house today. Yep, we are.
Yep, yep.
It was so great. But no, truly, that is what a I can see how that does fuel you though. Like that the experience in your own family with your children and like wanting that for other families and knowing that if they put the work in, it's possible. And that's
Yeah.
not always probable. It can't always happen 100% of the time, but it is possible if those parents do the work.
And there's an option, right? I'll give you an option. Here's what it could be. And I think like personality wise, right? Just having like my legal career started as a criminal prosecutor, right? That's a type. That's a, you know, and as a therapist, I'm not like, I always laugh with people who are coming into therapy for the first time and say, and not to be mean, but I'm not going to ask you how you feel. Like, I'm assuming you kind of feel crappy because you're here. I don't want to know how you feel. I want to know why you feel, where you want those feelings to go, how those feelings impact you. And so I think there's just by virtue of personality and training, there's a direct, a little bit fearless approach that's required in the midst of kind of a high conflict divorce or a divorce where goals are not aligned, that just allows me to inadvertently or even purposefully walk into the line of fire and say, it's okay, I just have to be here. And I don't think that's how a lot of therapists are wired. I mean, they shouldn't be, right? It's not, there is warm, fuzzy, loving, compassionate therapy. And sometimes I will do that. But for this, I have to be willing to take chances and to take risks and to be hated and for people to be mad at me because there's a greater good, right? And it's not like I'm so altruistic, but that's what this work is.
Ready, fire, aim, right?
Ready, fire, aim.
That's what
I
I
was
learned from you,
just-
baby.
yeah.
I swear to God, like I can't even tell you how many times in a week, in a day, sometimes hours, I think about that and I think of you. That was the single greatest line that I learned from you 20
I think
something
Nick
years
said
ago.
it first, actually.
No, that was all you. That was
that
No,
was
I
all
think it was
me?
you, Carrie. I
Carrie, it
do.
was all
Okay.
I
you
do.
because that is when you were speaking about sometimes you're learning as you go, you're making it up as
Yeah,
you go, depending on
that's
the
what I thought
family,
too.
because like that's just the truth. No, not one family is going to be the same, so it's
Yeah.
not going to it's going to require something different, and that's where your ready, fire, aim comes,
Totally.
right? For our
Totally.
listeners, normally it's ready, aim, fire. I
Right.
have to like
Just
say it in my just in case, but
Right.
there is a ready, fire, and then okay, is that's where we're
You
going?
need
All right,
merch.
now we can aim.
You need
Where did
fucking
that land?
merch. I swear to God, like that would be fabulous. Can we geek out for a second and talk about, because I think, and I'd love for you guys to correct me, please, you're a lot of when Carrie earlier, you were talking about the the framework that you and Nick had learned, or maybe the framework that you learned from Nick, since Nick was your professor, IFS, internal family systems. Was that what you guys had worked on together?
No, just structural family therapy
Okay, okay.
under a systems umbrella. I love
And
IFS, but that's not what we
yeah,
did together. Yeah.
Mhm.
okay. So can you talk a little bit about how you, or is there an example maybe that you can give of a situation where your therapist brain take something in, or you observe something, and then how you then sort of compute it and spit it out in a legal way, in a legal framework, and how that kind of feeds, how that process feeds itself.
Yeah, that's a great question because that's actually what I'm doing all the time is I'm looking at family structure. What is the function? What's the hierarchy? What's the understanding of the boundaries? How much triangulation has been going on? Um, what are the roles, right? What role has each parent played up to this point? And how does that support? I mean, I could talk about this for months. So
I know.
definitely stop me. But because
I'm going
what
to actually ask you, can you define, just for our listeners who might not know what triangulation means? Could you explain that just is there an easy way to explain it?
Oh, Nick can do that for sure.
No, you go. This is all about
Uh,
you. I
I
want to
mean,
see. Oh, student, go ahead.
I don't want to fail this class. Um, in the context in which I'm using, I mean, triangulation to me is when there is an alliance between two members of a family, usually generationally, against a third. So
Okay.
if a mother and a child are aligned against the dad, and it's not necessarily allies and enemies, it's oversharing. It's just bringing people into a dynamic between two people and eliciting sort of input from a third person is one of the things I'm looking for. And
Okay.
usually in these situations, it's one parent sort of oversharing or over aligning with a child against or about another parent. It can happen in multi contexts, but this is the one in which I'm looking at. Did I
Well
get that
done.
right?
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks, Teach. I learned it
A
from you.
plus.
Um, and so when I look at the structure of the family, the family, and this is another, I must say the word homeostasis like 10 times a week because families, even in their peak of dysfunction, right, which is usually right before, during, and immediately sort of following divorce, there's a homeostasis that they're drawn to. And it's not necessarily the positive function, it's the comfortable function, what we're used to. And divorce just breaks that homeostasis, but people's natural tendency is to want to sort of continue with what's known and what's familiar. And
Mhm.
so when you look at the roles in a family, as I'm always doing in assessing what's happening in a family, and then the roles that a family has to have during and post divorce, that's where the restructuring comes in, right? So sometimes you're taking dysfunction and trying to create function by saying, okay, parent A, you got to step up a little. Like you can't just wait around for parent B to tell you everything you have to do. Parent B, you got to open up space and let parent A learn this. And yeah, it's going to be rocky and it's going to be bumpy and they're going to do it their way, but there has to be space for them to figure it out. And, really giving everybody a chance to step up in the roles that favor the children's function. So how does that pertain to the legal process is that's how we create parenting time plans, not based
Mm,
on,
okay.
like where I am, there are a lot of, like, for example, I have a lot of families that get divorced where one of the parents is a surgeon. They've gone through residency. And now
Wow.
the surgeon is a little more stable and has more regular hours, but hasn't really been part of the family for a really long time because of residency and because of all the demands. And that was what was negotiated in the marriage. That was fine. But in divorce, the other parent will say, well, that parent was never around. Why should
Mm,
they have 50% parenting time when they don't even know where the taekwondo class is? And
mm,
I'll say, they need a chance to learn, right?
mm.
They've got to step into that role and
Yeah.
you've got to give space for that role. So that's how it pertains legally is how do you create a parenting time plan with a functional structure and a new homeostasis that supports, you know, positive dynamics as opposed to continuing on with what was wrong in the first place
Mm.
or
Yeah.
even creating a new right from an old right because sometimes the roles are really intact but you separate them, and suddenly there's the parent who was the emotional caretaker of the kids, and then the other parent who was great at building all the IKEA crap. Well, someone's got to learn IKEA, and someone's got to be emotionally patient, and people need time to get into those roles. And that's why, sort of you have to prepare them, because legally you got to pick your time, right? Parenting time is what the court requires so that they can calculate child support.
Are you then, so do you see parents like well after their divorce is finalized and continue to help them with that co-parenting piece post actual legal divorce?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And it's interesting because that's where I really respect the court, because judges and lawyers will look at them finally and say, this isn't the right forum for you. You need somebody who's going to engage you as it pertains to your family, not as it pertains to the law. And so a lot of judges, it's not really what they're supposed to do, because they can't just send me people. I have a private practice that has to have space, but I'll get a lot of referrals from judges or from lawyers who will ask me if I can work with the family and just keep them out of court. Court's reached its limit.
Yeah, thus divorce beyond court.
Divorce beyond
Right,
court.
there you go.
Beyond court in
Smart.
every direction, right?
Yeah.
Prior, during,
during
and after.
and post.
Yeah.
Do you also find, just since most of the stuff that Jen and I talk about on this is around women in midlife, do you see that particular demographic showing up a lot in your divorce cases, women in midlife, or is it varied?
No, I do, because there are certain sort of high risk, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but developmental stages in families' lives that are more inclined toward divorce than others, right? So one of the probably percentage-wise highest divorce episodes happens when kids are adolescents, right? So that puts parents, in midlife, right? And so now there is a woman who has dedicated her life, even if she's a career person, right, to children and family and being able to kind of do it all and have that support. And suddenly you have to sort of reimagine your life, which is, I probably won't be with my kids for 50% of the time. I'm going to have to decide what I want in my relationships. I'm going to have to decide what fuels me and what supports me. And even if the marriage was angst and agita and nothing but conflict, there's still a hole. It's gone. What fills that hole? And so oftentimes what happens is I start working with a family in co-parenting, and one of them, usually the woman, will want to continue on and say, okay, how do I live through this? How do I reimagine my life? How do I even it's everything from identity to how do I get naked again for somebody else, right?
Yeah. I would imagine, because it a lot of the women I see in my practice are at that midlife, and they're doing this retrospective around, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be with? How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to relate, lead, live, all of the things? And if they're partnered, or they look at that piece of it, and it's like, okay, do I love him still, or am I just finding myself and I can still love him? And so it really is I think such a profound time. And I can't remember which one of I don't know if it was Dr. Mary Hare Claver or somebody else was talking about, Haver, who was talking about just the percentage of women at midlife who do go through divorce, and it's a higher percentage. And I think there's so much happening for women on a physiological level, on an ideological level, identity, all of the things.
Well, I mean, we are evolutionary, right? We're constantly growing. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is sort of the trifecta. I think I probably learned this at Fairfield, of what's required in a family, which is, coupling, parenting, and executive functioning, right? These are the three standards. You might not have them all, but you have some of them. And how you maintain functioning in those three sort of subsystems while also tending to your own personal growth. And one of the dynamics that I see a lot is where people are together for a really, really strong intellectual purpose, right? We're going to change the world. We're going to move mountains. We're going to build a life together, and we're going to raise these kids, and they're going to move mountains and shake up the world. And then something happens, whether it's the birth of a child or the loss of a parent, or that something that creates this emotional need. And that piece has not been negotiated, and it's not part of the marriage. And so, to your point, Nick, when I see women in middle age, it's usually, I would say, like, if I'm looking at common fact patterns, it's usually a woman who has said, I've gone through this marriage and this relationship, and we've done a lot of great things together and taken a lot of great trips and envisioned a lot of great things, but emotionally, we're not connected. I just don't feel that this person is my emotional partner. And then there's a decision to be made. Is that okay? Can you find that someplace else? Or is this what you require in a partner? And maybe we work to get that. Because a lot of what I do is starting with couples therapy, and then we move into me usually saying, have you questioned whether or not you're compatible? Right? Is this enough for you? And let's talk about what if it's not. Let's get the fear factor on the table. But, to that point, we grow and evolve, and not always at the same pace, at the same rate, and in the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can, or I'll speak for myself. I was there, right? I was absolutely there. And
Right.
it doesn't make anybody, the other party, a bad person or anything like that. And sometimes, another person had said to me one time that, there's a time, reason, and a season for a lot of relationships in one's life. And sometimes it's the reason is short or long, or the season is short or long, or what have you. And so I think you're absolutely right there. That just resonates, deeply with me because I was there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
I
And it's a
want us
scary
to,
step.
it sure is. I want us to be cognizant of your precious time that is so, so precious. And I would love to ask you just some questions as we sort of segue toward our sad end, but hopefully certainly not the
Mm,
last one.
mm-mm,
I would love for you to share uh, what's a mindset shift that you think could be helpful for people as they're moving through their divorce process? And could you even name like an immediate and a mindset shift that could help immediately? And if you could wave your magic wand and hope for
Mm.
that for somebody, what would you suggest as something that could help people the quickest?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you already right now. I'm going to give the answer that comes to mind, and I'm going to wake up 4 times tonight going, I should have said this. I should have
It's
said
okay.
this.
So you'll just have to come back four
I'll
more
come
fucking
back,
times.
right.
It's fine.
yeah.
I think that the mindset shift, and this is not mine, this is from a book, is that divorce is not an event, it's a process, right?
Mm,
And that all aspects, all pieces of the puzzle need to be tended to. And one of the things I really, really work hard is to help families set a pace and help the courts and the lawyers adhere to that pace, because
mm,
information, as you know, Nick, as a therapist, the longer you're with somebody, any kind of family system, person, couple, the layers peel back and you see more and more and get more and more information. So I think that by the time people enter divorce and get the guts and the green light to do it, they just want it done.
mm,
And for a good divorce, that's great. That
mhm,
works. But if it's a conflict divorce, slow down, be thoughtful, be deliberate. Let your thought process and your goals and your aspirations and your needs be more important than the end result. So I think the mindset shift would be really, really, really focus on the process
mm.
and your own advocacy. And if you need help with your advocacy, get that help, because your voice matters. I tell people all the time, like, I might be an expert in the avenues to change, but you're an expert in your life. So make sure
Mm.
your expertise is valued and respected. Don't take the lead of
Yeah.
people who are experts in the system. Be an
Right.
expert in your life and advocate.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I have a few rando questions because, like it's Carrie, and so we can play a little here too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think well, this is more of a commentary or just a story. You said that ready, fire, aim was the thing that, you associate with Carrie the most, like a phrase or the word that I associate the most is situation.
I knew you were going
Do
to say
not.
that.
You should have been with me yesterday. Dude, dude, I'm telling you, like, yeah.
You had a situation.
Oh my God. I had a mid-session situation. And also I drove home from Chicago. And I literally texted my husband and said, open the front door. Move the dogs. Coming in hot.
I can't.
If I drink chai tea, all I have to text in my family text is chairia. And they're like, we don't want to hear about it. Stop it. Like, you do it to yourself, Mom.
Like legitimately.
Oh man.
When we have talked about situations, it brings me to my knees.
I have videos of stories that are sacred videos on my phone that are the watch when you have a bad day videos, and your storytelling of one particular situation in particular was just priceless and will be kept forever.
I just feel like we're home right now because like I was afraid you were going to tell me you haven't had them and then I was going to be really sad.
Oh God, no. But what better thing to talk about at a beautiful restaurant celebrating you, Nick, in Boston, right? Like,
Right.
why wouldn't we talk about that?
You know, why not? Oh man.
Yeah.
So I couldn't let this episode go by
Thank you.
if we didn't talk about and
I'm
I'm
glad that you
just
did.
my heart is so full knowing that it
I know.
continues.
I know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Feel free to add me to the chain if you need to. Like,
You might be the only one
serious.
still listening.
Serious.
The other random question, more of a question, is this is something we ask every guest who comes on. Since we are women around a table eating food, like I've shared many a meal with you and cooked in your home and probably burnt things on your stove and fucked up your husband's coffee maker once, I think. And, all the things. What is one food that you could eat every single day and not get tired of?
My desert island meal.
Mm.
So this is really an unfair question because I'm not proud of it.
Okay.
And it changes. Like it's everything from like bread and butter with salt
Oh yeah.
to Pringles.
Yes.
What was that? Like I recently had something and said, oh, this is my desert island food. It's all, I will say the theme is it's going to be something white and salty,
A little
right? Like
salty.
I could eat buttered pasta,
Mhm.
right? Like, so I don't have a high bar. I mean, if you gave me king crab legs, that would work too. But like, I don't, it's, if you think of like menstrual foods, those are my foods.
Okay.
I'm a carbivore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like give me sourdough with butter and salt.
Yeah,
Like,
there it is.
Yeah.
And a lychee
Oh,
martini.
right?
oh, there you
See,
go.
you can
I'm a
fucking
better
still
Wash it
drinker
drink
than I
down.
am
those.
eater. Yeah.
Can you drink like you used to?
No.
Okay, I was just making
No.
sure. Like,
I
'cause
mean,
if
I can drink like I used to. I just can't enjoy it like I used to.
right. There you go. That's what I was. Yeah, we would have some good cocktails too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
don't settle well with me anymore.
No.
No,
I
that's
know.
part
The
of the
time in
transition.
life when you need to drink the most, we are robbed of the pleasure. How is that fair?
There's so many things that are not fair, Care. Going through this phase of life.
So circling back
sure.
to sort of divorces, that is one thing that I really, really try to impress upon people is that there is a difference between justice and fair. When you go to
Oh, yeah.
court, you will get justice. Absolutely. It's built into the system. Fair is something you have to fight for. So
That's such a good distinction. That's
it is a
another mindset.
distinction.
Yeah, another mindset shift.
Yeah.
Justice versus fairness.
Yeah.
That's
And
so
I
good.
also think that that's a really important and such a prevalent lesson as you're raising children too, right? To talk about the fact that it might be, there's a difference between something being equitable and fair. Like I can give you, I can cut the piece of cake into two equal pieces, but you may still not think that that's fair. That's perception versus a reality of the actual sizes of the slices of
Right.
cake, and so that just proves that it's difficult while your prefrontal cortex is still baking, and it's also difficult when you're a grown up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
doesn't go
Yeah.
away.
That and the idea of playing to play instead of playing to win is really helpful too. We're playing for the joy of it, for the longevity of it, for the interest of it. If you play to win, it's not that fun.
Yeah.
So good. I feel like we could talk for hours because
my
that's what
gosh, yes.
that's what we would do in the
I
old
know.
days. In the old days.
Well, this was a huge pleasure for me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing your energy and your knowledge with everybody. You do such a beautiful, special thing. And it's one thing to be able to do what you do, but your personality and how articulate you are and how intelligent you are and how funny you are, you make it easy for people to absorb. And so I'm so thrilled for everybody to be able to listen to this because I think that it's such a gift of intel that people may not have even expected that they would get. So,
So where can they
Yes.
find you, Carrie?
Divorcebeyondcourt.com or Carrie at divorcebeyondcourt.
Cool. Awesome.
Amen.
You're on Insta. Is it on Insta too?
It is. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to send all and you take people from all over the country, all over the world.
And Canada, right? Too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Well, we're going to shout you from the rooftops.
I appreciate it.
So good to see you.
Thank you so much.
We love you.
Bye.
Love you both.
We love you.
Best
Bye.
part of my day. Now it's over. What do I do?
Ditto.
Sorry.
Go have a situation.
Or a martini.
Probably.
Or half a one.
Yeah.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was delish. Thanks for pulling up a chair with us at Women Around a Table Eating Food. You can find us here bi-weekly, so if you loved today's conversation, hit follow wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube or Instagram at Women Around a Table, and share it with a friend, because there's always room for more at our table.